Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here on this bright sunny day that's going to be up to 77 degrees. It's hard to believe when you wake up and it's so cold that you look in your closet and it's like, I don't know what to wear. It's just like layers and just take them off. And today we're going to listen to Lori. She had a great appointment yesterday. But before we start with that, I want to go over and be sure that you're all being mindful about your daily 411, the lead gen rule of thumb at Keller Williams. And that is to be sure that you are making 10 contacts per day at least. And that's an interaction. That can be a phone call, it can be a text interaction, it can be face-to-face. I'm not sure if they've condoned email and emails being, reciprocated, but technically it's been face-to-face, phone call, not just messages, but interaction and texts. Then you're making 10 contacts per day, you're adding 10 to your database. So 10 new contacts added to your database, and it's important that when you go into the contacts of command that you're putting in as much information as possible so that your health meter goes up. Not only does that give you instant gratification, but it's important as you at least quarterly, nurture everybody in your database, and that it gives you talking points. If you talked about their dog, you talked about a goal they have for the new year, and you're going to check in with them first quarter to see where they are at with their goals. Anything that can give you those talking points. And I don't know if they talked about, it's kind of old school, but it works, the Ford or Frog. Are you familiar with that? Okay, so these are talking points. It's talk about family, things that you can ask them about, talk to them about their occupation. Let's see. Here I'm having a brain. So it's family, occupation, recreation, things that they like to do, and their dreams or goals. So those are things that when you start a conversation with some, especially if it's someone you don't know, that you can just say, how's your family doing? You feel ready for the holidays, whatever the situation is, that you can create a conversation around it. So it's 10 contacts, add 10 to your database, and it's 10 note cards that you are handwriting 10 note cards per day and mailing them out. The dollar store is a great resource for inexpensive cards. And we have cards here for sale that can go on your office bill. They have the KW logo, of course. Or Leverage Plus can help you with that. If you have a design that you want us to make, and maybe it's a postcard style that you want us to make, and then you can mail it out since it's something related to this, or Leverage Plus can do something as a mailer, postcards, different sizes, to go out to a farming area that you may have that you want to reach out to monthly. And as an aside, farming is persistent and consistent. If you are going to farm an area, it's recommended that you just go all in for at least a year. It may take a year before you see some results, but if you're consistently putting yourself out there, in this case, I'm using the example of a postcard. Each time you can, maybe it's a recipe, maybe it's more of a newsletter, maybe it's a market snapshot, maybe it's about something you just sold in that neighborhood, things of that nature that you can focus on. And as the new year comes, that you're looking at, okay, what am I going to focus on? My one thing for my lead gen, or what things am I going to focus on? What are my attack points? Am I going to do farming? Am I going to do an event quarterly and invite people to come? My current clients, my current sphere of influence, and then reach out beyond that to maybe your neighborhood or an area that you are trying to become an expert in and get known in. So as the new year starts, I'm sure Julia and Hunter have started to talk about this, about what your plan of attack is and where you're going to focus on your lead gen. And then it's preview 10 homes each week so that you can become an expert in an area. These are great rule of thumbs to go over, just to be mindful of every day. Keller Williams has this, the idea of the miracle morning. There actually is a book called The Miracle Morning. And if you're not a morning person, I highly recommend it. It's not a big read, but it's called The Miracle Morning. And it's about centering before you enter, if you will. It's about getting your head together each morning so that you can start out the day with great energy on the best footing possible. And a lot of that really starts the night before, and getting your workspace, or if it's your briefcase, together so that when you come to the office to work, you're not just like, where do I begin? You know where you're to begin. You're focused and you're directed and you're purposeful in what you're doing. And knowing that you need to make 10 contacts, add 10 to your database, write 10 note cards so that you've got note cards in your workspace or in your briefcase to write that day. That you, maybe it's a Monday, you did an open house and you had quite a few people come through. If you already didn't do a landing page where they can log in on your computer or iPad to sign in, if you will, we can help you with that through Leverage Plus to get a sign in on it. It's really easy. It just takes just a moment to do. But if that's the way you do a sign in, then when people sign in, they automatically go into your database. It's like it's all done for you. But if you prefer to do it on a piece of paper, then that next Monday morning or Sunday, go and add those people to your contacts and follow up with them. And then write your note cards and know who you're going to contact that each morning. Say, today I'm going to contact, say it's the beginning of the new year. I'm going to contact everyone with the last name A in my database. And I'm going to do that for the whole week. Say you have quite a few A's in your database. You're going to contact at least 10 people in your database whose last names start with the letter A. And that directs you to, you're not like, oh, I'm not comfortable calling that person. It's like, no, you call that person, you have your talking points, your reason for reaching out to them. The beginning of the year is a perfect time to get this started because you have a reason to call. You're wishing them well. You're trying to find out what their goals are for the new year and what is going on in their world that you can come to a contribution and help them. So again, it's about the night before, putting your head in the game as to how you're going to go about your 10 contacts, adding 10 to your database, writing 10 note cards, who those note cards are going to go out to, and to preview homes, that's 10 per week. So on the buddy system, get together and one day during the week, for example, go on the MLS. Perhaps there's an area that you want to become an expert in. Maybe it's your own neighborhood. Maybe it's a particular subdivision that has a price point that you want to focus on. And so go preview homes. I recommend, because of COVID especially, that you're previewing homes that are show and goes, ones that you're not asking a family to step out of the house with the dogs and the kids, just so you can practice previewing. Taken or is like labeled a show and go. And go and preview, and that's practice because then you're practicing to open the lockbox. You'll become more fluid with that, and you know, opening the door, knocking on the door, even though the house may be empty, knocking on the door and say, you know, realtor, and then go in, turn on the lights, open the doors. Be sure that you have, because of COVID, you have masks, perhaps gloves. It's great to have in your car. Even for open houses, kind of your realtor bag in which you have paper toweling, disinfectant, maybe gloves. TP can be necessary, especially if you're doing an open house in a vacant house. And maybe a broom and a dustpan, things that will help you tidy things up and keep you safe as well. So any questions so far? put on the phone, I think somewhere, so.
Okay, and again, that miracle morning, and Hunter may talk about it too, as you wrap things up tomorrow. But what the point of that is that you wake up in the morning and you energize yourself for the day, whether that's doing something spiritual, whether it's meditating, whatever is meaningful, important to you that energizes you. For me, it's exercise, it's waking up and doing your gratitudes. If you start with positivity and start thinking about the pluses in your life, we all deal with stuff. But if we start out with a better attitude and focus on what we're grateful for and where we can contribute and help someone that day, that changes the whole mindset. And then, once you take care of yourself physically, have a great breakfast, have that 2 cups of coffee at least, all that stuff. And that, even that your outfit is set for the day or, your outfits for the week, that takes away headspace in the morning so that it's all set. You just take it and go, and that your briefcase is ready if you're coming to the office to work, or that your workspace is ready the night before, and that you're energized to start your day. $35 to KW Cares. So Hunter had asked me to, what we'll do today is Hunter had asked me to go over the contract. He said you had all started yesterday. Did you go through page 3 or end before page 3?
I think we're on page 3. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go through that. Contracts may not be sexy, but they're extremely important. And it is very important that you basically memorize the contract, that you know which points. And that way too, you'll know which points are key, whether you're presenting offers, when you're writing up an offer, and then after you have an executed offer, it's wise to have a template, a prepared canned response email in your @kw.com email, in which it's your go-to that you fill in the spaces to say to your client, congratulations, your offer has been accepted. Based off of the execution date, these are critical dates and the timeline for the life of the transaction so that we can get to a close as smooth as possible. And I'm here to help make sure that there's as little turbulence as possible. But if your client is mindful of when the title commitment is due, when financing is due, and that they're getting all of their paperwork into the lender on time so that the financing addendum can be there and that they get the information 3 days before closing, the seller's disclosure has been delivered, the T47 has been delivered, the option and earnest money's been delivered on time. And for those of you here in class, and I'll send this out to those of you via Zoom. I have, because knowing when earnest money is to be delivered can be a little tricky. And if ever you have a question about that, reach out to us, reach out to our contract specialist. But I have a sheet that they prepared that will help you, because earnest money is to be delivered within 3 days. And it's not 3 business days, but it's 3 days. And if the third day falls on a day where they're not open or it's a holiday, then you can jump to the next day. And this will explain that in a little more detail. And I'll send this out to those of you that are joining us via Zoom. Also, attached to this is a flow chart of the life of a transaction. And that will help you to just organize your thoughts on what to prepare for and what things to have in place as you get your business underway. As I mentioned, you may want to start having some canned response emails in your Gmail. And if you don't know how to do that, I can show you how to do that, or Clark can show you how to do it. It's very simple. But you would create an email, a template, so that whether it's on the buyer side or the seller side, as soon as you have an executed contract, that's another touch on your client to help them know what the flow chart, what the events are leading up to the closing, so that everyone's prepared and you're setting expectations, and you're consulting, you're educating the client that way. So because we only have an hour and a half, I won't go over the flow chart in detail. I think it's self-explanatory, and as we go through the contract, it'll all connect. Are you all hearing me okay? Those of you join us via Zoom? Okay, awesome. So what I'm going to do is, oh wait, first, before that, I apologize. Lori, oh, Brad, you have a question?
On this,
Yeah,
I've got some questions on the blue.
okay.
Why are you counting Saturday and Sunday?
Because that is, it's not business days. For earnest money, it is not business days. It is 3 days. And since the third day, the very last day, lands on a business day, when the title company is open, then that is going to be your third day. I'm hoping Trek changes that. I would like to see that changed, but, and keep in mind too, option check, that's 3 days. If it's a Sunday or a Monday or a holiday, that doesn't matter. It has to be there within 3 days to the seller. And so you have to be mindful of that with your client and when that offer is executed. And then also, when you, before you go to make your offer on a house, reach out to the seller's agent, ask them what's important to their client as far as, key points. Is a lease back important to your client? Is the closing date important? So that you can be mindful of how you're writing up the offer and how you're speaking to your buyer about what to put into the offer. And then ask them about the title company. I see you've chosen such and such as a title company. If we were to execute today, and my client's in California moving here, what are electronic ways that they can deliver the earnest money? Find those things out before you're in a panic mode. So reach out to the title company and see which ways of delivering the earnest money is workable with them. And that will take out some anxiety right away there. Okay, so we'd love to hear from Lori. She had, was it a listing appointment? I forget.
To the buyer.
A buyer appointment yesterday. And if you're comfortable taking off your mask or sitting here to share with everybody, we'd love to hear how you prepared for it, how it came to be, how you prepared for it, and what the result was.
Okay.
And how you felt.
All right. Is it okay if I just stay right here?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I actually posted my business card on my Facebook page.
Good project.
And so I had someone reach out, and it's actually someone I went to high school with, so I haven't seen this person in 27 years or so, 25 years, and said that he was interested in buying in 1 to 3 months. And so I immediately, contacted him, and then we had a phone call about it, and because he's going to be on a VA loan, so there were some questions on that. I took care of that, and then I met him yesterday for lunch. I had sent over just some from the buyer's presentation, the part that talks about like your dream wish list for your home. I sent that over previously for him to look at. So yesterday was just about kind of telling him what I could offer him and going over the home buying process. And I literally just kind of followed the packet and had lunch, talked, and then he said he definitely wanted to work with me. And yeah, felt good.
That's great.
Yeah.
So are you going to be sending him out a buyer's rep agreement?
Yes, so we talked about that. Actually, no, he did sign that yesterday. I had it with me.
Awesome.
So I told him that I had a hard copy that I could give him to look over, but I would also email it. And he's like, oh, I'll sign it now. So he signed it, and yeah.
And do you have your IBS initialed from him or the affiliated?
I have both of those as well.
Awesome. Good
Yeah.
for you.
I did all three of them. I did all three just in case.
That is so great. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
So that you were prepared. I could tell you had great confidence yesterday. If you were nervous, it did not show.
Oh, thanks, because I was nervous.
And that's natural. That means it matters to you. So you're going to be, engaged. It's smart that, even though we're a digital world, you can bring the hard copy, the IABS, the buyer's rep, and just like, this is just normal operating procedure. My office requires these forms be presented to you and be signed in order for us to work together. It is a part of TREC compliance. And that, if there's some hesitation, like, well, I just want to work with you on this house. You can put that in the buyer's rep. I'm not sure if you've gone over that yet, but there's a place instead of like the whole Netris area, you could put, that particular spot. I'll show you this house. If you're comfortable, then I'd like to proceed with being able to show you more in a broader area, and us committing to working together for that. And if at any time, if everything's going great, awesome. If you get a lot of pushback, don't enter into the conversation unless you get a lot of pushback, and say, well, if you're not comfortable, if you don't feel that we're a good fit after we work together for a bit, let's have a conversation. And there'll be, no discomfort. If I'm not the fit for you, this is not, we can terminate that agreement. But that's only if the conversation looks like it has to go that direction. You may want to terminate your association with that person if you find that they're asking you to do things that are not ethical, that are just not the way that you do business, not the way that you want to represent yourself with someone. So don't come from scarcity. We all want the business, and we all want to do the best job possible and have great numbers and help our community. But don't come from scarcity where if red flags go up, something doesn't feel right when working with a particular client, and it can happen, then you can remove yourself from this situation graciously. So, all right, any questions? Okay, bear with me. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go into Command and bring up the 1-to-4 contract so we can talk about that. Hunter had asked me to go over that with you all. Let's see. Wait a minute. Bear with me 1 second, everybody. Okay, I wonder why that didn't come up. Okay, where is everybody? Okay, can everybody see that I'm in my command on the screen? We're good? Okay, thanks for your patience. So you have your contacts. You all know how to add a contact into Command. Okay, and so I've gone to opportunities, and when you click the red KW, you may already know this, it'll give you the cheat sheet of what each symbol is. Go to opportunities. If this were a buyer client, let me move this over. And I'm going to go to my documents. And go to transaction. And I think I forgot my login. Let's see. Okay, bear with me 1 second. I do apologize. I have to go get my login. But if you want to talk about, while I go do that, and I'm so sorry, any discussions you had from the first 3 pages that you had that Hunter went over, and I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
That's was at the lease for right now.
It's lease rate, but, and so I'm supposed to be showing them like houses. I have no idea where to go. I'm like, okay, I got it signed, okay, so after that, like, I have no idea how to put it, an offer they live in, so they're like flying down here to see just to see houses. What do we get on it? Going back, but I have no idea how to do that.
And I was coughing.
Oh, no, I was worried about you. Oh my gosh, I was so worried. I think of, I guess I was just back at my car and there was like dust in it.
Oh my gosh,
We don't want to breathe that in. Yeah, so I'm kidding, I'm breathing in the dust and then I'm like, oh my God, it's all in my throat. I'm like, you're gonna think I got COVID.
Yeah, that's the thing about coughing.
I know, you can do it.
I actually had bronchitis a month or two ago. I had like bad bronchitis and it wasn't COVID or the flu. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
So if I were a dog, I'd have my tail between my legs. Sorry about that. All of life is knowing your passwords and charging your phone. And now I'm getting a two-step verification. So this is going to happen from time to time because DocuSign just, again, has two-step verifications. Okay. So we're on the document side within the opportunity of a buyer transaction, and I'm going to go to add, go to DocuSign. In the forms library, it's going to be a Texas Association of Realtors form. And you've probably did this yesterday did Hunter do it this way with you all yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. And now we're looking for the 1 to 4. It's not going to come up fast for me. This is something too, as I see it here, the buyer's walkthrough and acceptance form, that when you're doing your walkthrough, just before closing, that you go through and fill this out and sign it, or have them sign it. And when doing your, my goodness. I'm sorry. When you are writing up an offer, for example, and you have questions and maybe you can't get to your, get in touch with your coach.
Right there.
There we go. Thanks for your patience with me, everybody. Let's see, okay. So when you have an offer and you're writing it up and perhaps your coach isn't available, you certainly can come to anybody in the office and in leadership to help you. But also we have our contract specialists. And when you open up your app at KW Central 7, your KW Central 75 app, you can see, you know, there's Rick Bentine, there's Sherry Kempe and James Cheney and their contact information. Before ever reaching out to them, make sure you have all your questions that you can available, ready, so that you make the best use of their time. They are compensated by the Market Center to answer your questions, but oftentimes when you're writing up an offer or in the midst of something, it could be a weekend, it could be an evening, and you want to be respectful of their time, but they are there to help you. So have your contracts done to the best of your ability, your offer written up and everything as best you can, and then have your questions ready. And everybody has questions, even experienced agents, because every transaction is going to be different. Every situation is going to present something different for you all. Okay, so you went over putting in all of the information yesterday. We'll just do a quick review. And who can tell me where they can find, not just on the MLS sheet from the seller's agent, but where can you find this information about that particular property?
Tax records?
Correct, the tax records. And it's always wise to go verify that anyway. And again, if I may be repeating things that Hunter went over, it's important that when you do your CMA, when you're getting ready to do your offer, that you pull the tax records yourself. Because yes, we want to, it's our hope that the seller's agent, everything that they put in the MLS on the listing is accurate, but you should always verify things. In particular, you should always verify the schools too. And it is wise to have your client verify the schools. And they can do that by calling the school directly and giving them the property address. This is really important, especially if the family is, if they have elementary school age children. A lot of people are like, yes, I want to be in the Richardson School District. Okay, is there a particular middle or elementary school that's important to you? And there, here in Richardson School District, there is one in particular that families want to get into. And sometimes those lines, that districting, if you will, of which map area feeds to that elementary school, that can change. So it's best that, you can tell your buyer client, yes, you are in the Richardson School District. It appears that this house is in the area for this elementary school that it feeds to, but it's best for you to call the school directly, give them the property address, and hear it from the school directly that, yes, this home, this property feeds to that elementary school, so that they hear it firsthand from the school. And because heaven forbid that you would get them in a home of their dreams and then they find out their children can't go to that elementary school. And you don't want that liability.
You'd have them call personally.
Yes.
As well.
I would have them call, definitely. Just say it's important that you hear it from the school directly, since you are going to be the home buyer, and ask them if currently the house feeds into that, and if they anticipate any realignment of, of that area. Yeah.
You call the individual school of the district.
I would call that school. They may have a district office, the district office. I would call both. You can never be too careful because of how things can change. Okay. And then, make sure that your math is correct, that you know what they're financing and what they have to put down and what they have agreed to as the final offer or the offer. The earnest money, that you have a title company. It's important that you all are, we have wonderful preferred title companies here. And as a TC, helping agents with their transaction coordination work, it's been very eye-opening to me to see that there are differences in title companies. There's a big difference in their accuracy and their communication and efficiency. And I'm really happy that we have on our preferred vendors list Lawyers Title and Republic Title. When I had my realtor hat on, working with them gave me great confidence too. So that on the MLS sheet, the seller's agent and the seller will have listed who they prefer the title company be. And if you feel comfortable with that, great. You don't want to create a situation where the offer would not be accepted because of that. But if you have concerns about it, you could certainly reach out to the seller's agent and just say, is this title company, is it important to you that we stick with this title company? Just to be sure. But don't let that be a point of, an issue with the offer. Just be sure that you're constantly communicating and touching base with everybody, all the parties involved during the transaction. So as the buyer's agent writing up the offer, you would put all that information here based off of what they had on the MLS. You, of course, put your property address in at the top. If everything is done correctly in command in the details, then this should populate over for you. So this is page 2. If you haven't gotten the survey, that you're putting when you expect to get the survey. If one isn't available, who will pay for it? Who's going to get the survey? And the title company will see that and they will place the order so that the survey is done. And then it stipulates here who's going to pay for that survey. Any objections? This is an area where if you think there's any hesitancy, that there could be an out of the contract. So that's, the following use, that you can't run a daycare through it, that you can't put a pool in, that you couldn't have a home office, something like that, that's important to your client that they can do on the property. Okay, so page 3. Did you end here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is information that you may have to research about the property if you have some questions about it. The seller's agent should disclose these things if they're aware of it. Certain things would show up on the seller's disclosure, so make sure that you're going over that seller's disclosure with your client. And then you could also reach out to the title company if you have questions, if some red flags have come up and you need some clarification. So that's on tax districting. I'll let you read through this in more detail on your own, but we're going to go over this because I want to get to some other key points so that, in the time that we have today, that you know how to fill out a contract. Tidewaters, that may not be an issue here. Annexation. Property located in a certificated service area of a utility service provider. There are things called MUD districts. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, where the city is getting their electricity or water outside of the area, and in which case it can often cost them more money for sewer, water, or electric. So that needs to be disclosed by the seller. Public improvements and transfer fees. Page 4, again, you want your property address across the top. Notice down here too, when you send this through DocuSign, that you're going to bring in the initials for each buyer, if there's 2 buyers, for them to initial. So each page has to be initialed and then their signatures towards the end. Propane gas service area. Water level fluctuations. Property condition. Access, inspections, and utilities. Seller shall permit buyer and buyer's agents access to the property at reasonable times, because you have to go in and do inspections. After the inspection, you may think, you know what, we need a structural engineer to come out and really tell me about the foundation. And so the seller needs to give you reasonable access to make those appointments to get that information, especially during inspection time. Buyer may have the property inspected by inspectors selected by buyer and licensed by TREC or otherwise permitted by law to make inspections. Any hydrostatic testing must be separately authorized by seller in writing. Seller at seller's expense shall immediately cause existing utilities to be turned on and shall keep the utilities on during the time this contract is in effect. That's huge, because you need to get into the house to do inspections, to check on things, and to follow up that once if you've done repair amendments, that you can follow up. Maybe some things have to be re-inspected, or that you need to show that it's been taken care of.
What's a hydrostatic test?
That is a test to check, and I'd have to get more detail on it for you. And there's an actual form for that. And it's testing the plumbing under the house.
Water pressure.
Okay.
And water
I know
pressure.
what it is now, yeah.
And the issue there is it could cause damage. everything could
It's
be,
for like older pipes, right? If your house is older, to make sure the pipes are still,
it could be if
No.
there's been a shift in the foundation or if there's been foundation work.
Or if the water, for example, from the feed is over like 60 or 70 PSI, you may cause damage to your toilets and cause them to
okay,
burst.
so if it's too strong.
That's the big issue. Then you put the dampers on the system.
Okay. Thank you.
So, and the cautionary thing with that is that you need the seller's permission because you could cause damage doing the test. And then who's liable for that repair work?
Thank you.
Seller's disclosure. So it's always, as a listing agent, it's very professional. It looks most professional if you have the seller's disclosure signed by the seller and already in the supplements of your listing in the MLS. And so go, when you make the offer, go into the MLS to see what they have in the supplements. So that way, if it's all there, you can readily present it to your buyer to review before they even make an offer on the house, because there may be some telling tales in the seller's disclosure about that. Or they may just have questions and then you can explain it, tell them how certain things could be remedied or what things could happen. Because you never want to come across in a panic mode or like a reactionary mode. You want to make sure that you're explaining things in a very calm fashion and letting them know what could happen or how things could be repaired, or if they want to reach out to a roofer or a foundation specialist before making the offer to get a full understanding of what they may be getting into with regard to the house. Also in the supplements, as the listing agent, it's again, professional if you have the seller's disclosure already done and uploaded there with the seller's signatures and initials, that the T47, that form, that real property affidavit is filled out by the seller and is notarized, and that the survey is there. That shows that you were prepared, that you set up your listing well, and that tells you something too when you're on the buyer's side. Sometimes people have to get the listings up fast and they can't get the supplements in right away, but they will have them. But be sure that when you do your offer that you're going to the supplements section to see what's there currently so that you can fill out your offer properly. So buyer has not received notice. So the seller's disclosure, you would want, most people put 3 to 5 days here, that you would want that as soon as possible. You want it within the time of your option period. So 3 days, I think is smart. The seller is not required to furnish the notice under the Texas Property Code. I'm not sure what case that would be, and it would be very rare that that box would be checked. Maybe it's foreclosure and there's no longer,
Trust.
and if it's owned by a trust, because there isn't an actual someone living in the house or have lived in the house that's a part of ownership anymore that would have knowledge of the house. Seller's disclosure of lead-based paint and lead-based paint hazards. What's the year mark for lead-based paint?
78.
Correct, good job. So if the house is 78, from 78 or earlier, you would need to do the lead-based paint disclosure. And the seller would have to have that available. And there is a pamphlet too that you can locate to make your client aware of it. Acceptance of property condition. Typically, this one, the buyer accepts the property as is the one that is checked off. And then what would happen is during inspection, you would do a repair amendment, and that amendment would be signed that they have agreed to do those repairs. If something needs to be re-inspected, that would be done, that you would put that in. And be sure that you are getting the receipts for those repairs, and that those repairs are done by, where necessary, a licensed plumber. It's people that are licensed. And it's important that you get those receipts and you can verify on the day of walkthrough or prior, you have a visual that that was done and done to your satisfaction. This may be if you know of something immediately readily, but that would really be covered in a repair amendment that you would write up and have completed before option period is done, so that you know if you want to move on after option period or to terminate. Lender required repairs for certain loans, especially VA loans. That house needs to be in great shape before they'll approve a loan, and that those repairs have to be done well before closing and have to be done to satisfaction. Completion of repairs and treatments, unless otherwise agreed in writing, seller shall complete all agreed repairs and treatments prior to the closing date, and all required permits must be obtained if necessary, and repairs and treatments must be performed by persons who are licensed to provide such repairs or treatments, or if no license is required by law, are commercially engaged in the trade of providing such repairs or treatments. At buyer's election, any transferable warranties received by seller with respect to the repairs and treatments will be transferred to buyer at buyer's expense. If seller fails to complete any agreed repairs and treatments prior to the closing date, buyer may exercise remedies under paragraph 15 or extend the closing date up to 5 days if necessary for seller to complete the repairs and treatments. So it is important that you as the buyer's agent are following up on these repairs, getting completed to satisfaction, that they're done by licensed people when necessary, that you're getting the repair receipts and that you're putting that in your file. And that the buyer is aware of it and they're comfortable that things have been taken care of accordingly. Environmental matters, buyers advise that the presence of wetlands, toxic substances, including asbestos and waste, or other environmental hazards, or the presence of a threatened or endangered species or its habitat may affect buyers' intended use of the property. If buyers concerned about these matters, an addendum promulgated by TREC or required by the parties should be used. So these are things that the seller's agent should be aware of, or it should be in the seller's disclosure. Residential service contract. Do you all know about those? Okay, so on our preferred vendor list, we have a number of excellent home warranty companies. And the home warranty is different from home insurance. Home warranty is there to cover things like, it may cover appliances, some plumbing, repair, and air conditioning. Get familiar with what's covered. The information is in our mailroom where our preferred vendors have their information, and you may have already come to events where our preferred vendors have presented. We have Super is one of our home warranty companies that has an amazing reputation. And they all have different programs, different levels of warranty. And you'll want to go over that with your client so they can say, because of the size of the home, I want to, and what's in the home and the age of the home, I want this home warranty. And there's home warranties that are around $500 or $600 and it goes up. So you want to be sure that you're putting in this section an amount that will cover the plan that your client would prefer. Because just if there's an amount there that's agreed upon, just typically a week or so before closing, the title company will reach out to the buyer's agent or the buyer and say, which home warranty have you chosen and which plan? And then that will be in part of the closing, so that the amount of money there goes to the home warranty. This is especially important with older homes too.
How long is this warranty typically?
It's 1 year. It's 1 year. So after class, go take a look at the home warranty pamphlets that they have. For a house, probably for like a 3,000 square foot, 3,000 to 5,000 square foot house, the home warranty might be around $600. One that would be a good fit for a home that size. So you want to be mindful of what home warranty options are out there, what programs are there, so that you can put a responsible amount in here for the seller to pay for a 1-year home warranty. And then after that, the buyer could renew it if they elect to.
Is that pretty common that the seller will pay for that? Like it's common to put that in there?
I am seeing that. I'm seeing that put in as I do TC work. Bless you. I am seeing that is common. When in 2015, when it was multiple offers and we were in just a different economy, COVID's presented something different. But around 2015, when there were multiple offers because there weren't a lot of listings on the market, that was one strategy in presenting the offer, that you weren't asking for a home warranty. And then the closing date.
There's really not an option in that paragraph, except to put in a dollar figure,
You would put a 0.
just a zero.
Just put a 0. And it's advised that wherever something like that is, don't leave it blank. If it's 0, put in a 0. If it's NA, put in NA. Don't leave anything blank. Because then it's always, well, did they forget about that? Did they skip over it? No, it's very clear. All obligations of the parties for payment of broker's fees are contained in separate written agreements. We'll see that a little further down. Closing date. So when you make an offer, especially since we are in multiple offer situation currently, reach out to the seller, verify first. Have you had a lot of activity on the house? Are you currently entertaining offers? Are you looking at a number of offers? Do you have a deadline for when all offers need to be in? Because typically if it's a multiple offer situation, they're going to say the deadline for, and it may even say in the MLS, in the remarks, we're in a multiple offer situation. Please have all offers in by Thursday at 5 p.m. I would reach out to the seller's agent. Say, I see from the MLS, you're in a multiple offer situation, or if you don't know, ask. And like, ask the question and then be silent and see what information they offer. They should be ethical, and if they are in a multiple offer situation, they should answer yes. If they aren't, they shouldn't lead you to believe that you are. But that can happen. But you, in culture, as a KW agent, it would be, we are entertaining no offers at this time. Or we've had a lot of activity, a lot of interest on the house. Some people have shown an interest, are telling me that they're writing up an offer if that's the case. But we have not received any to date. And then, or just don't volunteer that information. But be honest, be ethical. And then as the buyer's agent, ask them, what's most important to your client? Is the closing date important? Do they need to get out of the home by a certain time? Is a lease back important to them? Because some of this information may, wouldn't necessarily be at the MLS. Is price important, or is, getting it sold and getting out of the home most important? And then just be silent and listen to what that seller's agent will share with you. And then verify, say, well, I'm going to speak with my client, and I anticipate us writing up an offer. What if it's a multiple offer situation, ask if there's a deadline. And again, when you send in the offer, the things that you need to have, if they're financing, you need the pre-approval letter, or never assume someone needs to be financed, because that could be insulting to them. If it's a cash offer, make sure that you have proof of funds. That has to accompany the offer. And if you get any pushback from your client, especially if they need to be pre-approved for a loan or pre-qualified, you say, Mr. that is what's expected. The seller and seller's agent expect to see that with an offer. This isn't something that is optional. This is something that is expected and has to go with it. And then you would have your third-party financing addendum written up, pre-approval letter, the contract. If it's in an HOA, that should say in the MLS if it's in an HOA, so you need to have your HOA form. And if it's a lease back, you would have the lease back form. And all of those things should be reviewed by your buyer. Make sure they're comfortable. If you have questions, reach out to your coach or the contract specialist and have them initial and sign where necessary, and then send it to the seller's agent in a PDF. And when you send it, ask that they email you back that they've received it. And if they don't, within a reasonable time, call or text them, because you want to be sure that they got that offer. And it doesn't come back on you that your buyer client says, well, they never received it. What happened? You would never want that to happen. Possession. Again, here's whether they're doing a temporary lease back or whether possession happens upon closing and funding. It's in an ideal situation, it would be the first, upon closing and funding. Yes, temporary lease backs, happen, but there's a lot of things that could go wrong during that time. And in an ideal situation, you'd want it to possession upon closing and funding, and you would speak with the seller's agent are the keys with the title company to be given to us when it's funded. Where can you get those keys so that the homeowner can get in there, because they may have already arranged their moving company. Today's time won't allow us to go over the temporary residential lease agreement, but I recommend that you take a look at that so that you know what to be aware of in writing that up to protect your buyer client.
That goes in with the offer also?
Yes. So those of you via Zoom, if you have questions, just unmute and ask, because it's hard for me to keep an eye on the chat box. So don't be shy to unmute and ask. Special provisions. We've always been advised to never write anything in special provisions, to put NA. If you have a situation where you feel you need to put something in there, reach out to James Tan, our broker, about that. And we're not talking about a repair amendment or anything like that. That would happen during the option period when you're doing inspections, or if something more were to come up. But for special provisions, our brokerage advises you that you don't put anything in there. If you do, reach out to James Tan to ask his advice on that. If it is something that's necessary, he may have you reach out to a lawyer for proper verbiage to put in there. Settlement and other expenses. Your buyer may need some expenses paid by the seller. It could be a VA loan in which something's necessary there, or perhaps an FHA loan where something is necessary there. And that you would do on a case-by-case basis, and you'd have a conversation with the lender perhaps about this, if it's necessary to put something in there. And your coach will help you with that further, as well as our contract specialists. Again, at the top of each page, the property address, prorations, taxes for the current year. So the title company, if they're doing their job, will have all of that, the prorations, will know what the seller has had to pay up to that point, and that's going to be taken care of, and then what you have. And it's important that you go over that with your buyer when they get the preliminary settlement or CD before closing. Casualty loss, if any part of the property is damaged or destroyed by fire or other casualty after the effective date of this contract, shall restore the property to its previous condition as soon as reasonably possible, but in any event by the closing date. And of course, you'll want to be sure that there's inspections again, that things are done by licensed people, and that it's done to your satisfaction, the buyer's satisfaction. Default, if buyer fails to comply with this contract, buyer will be in default and seller may enforce specific performance, seek such other relief as may be provided by law or both, or terminate the contract and receive the earnest money as liquidated damages, thereby releasing both parties from this contract. If seller fails to comply with this contract, seller will be in default and buyer may enforce specific performance, seek such other relief as may be provided by law or both, terminate this contract and receive the earnest money, thereby releasing both parties from this contract. So when you're within where you can terminate the contract, for example, it's option period, you don't have to give a reason why you're terminating, but you should do a termination form and have that signed. The buyer signs that. And then you also need to do a release of earnest money in which the buyer and seller need to sign that, and that the title company gets that ASAP. Mediation, TREC always encourages that things are mediated, that they don't go to court. Escrow, I'm going over highlighted information because of the time that we have. The escrow agent is not a party to this contract and does not have liability for the performance or non-performance of any party to this contract. At closing, the earnest money must be applied first to any cash down payment, then to buyer's expenses, and any excess refunded to buyer. If no closing occurs, escrow agent may require written release of liability of the escrow agent from all parties, require payment of unpaid expenses incurred on behalf of the party, and only deduct from the earnest money the amount of unpaid expenses incurred on behalf of the party receiving the earnest money. Demand upon termination of this contract, either party or the escrow agent may send a release of earnest money to each party, and the party shall execute counterparts of the release and deliver same to the escrow agent. If either party fails to execute the release, either party may make a written demand to the escrow agent for the earnest money. If only one party makes written demand for the earnest money, escrow agent shall promptly provide a copy of the demand to the party. Any part who wrongfully fails or refuses to sign a release acceptable to the escrow agent within 7 days of the receipt of the request will be liable to the other party for damages, the earnest money, responsible attorney's fees, and all costs of suit. Escrow agent's notices will be effective when sent in compliance with paragraph 21. All covenants, representations, and warranties in this contract survive closing. If any representation of seller in this contract is untrue on the closing date, seller will be in default. Unless expressly prohibited by written agreement, seller may continue to show the property and receive, negotiate, and accept backup offers. Federal tax requirements. If seller is a foreign person as defined by Internal Revenue Code and its regulations, or if seller fails to deliver an affidavit or a certificate of non-foreign status to buyer, that seller is not a foreign person, then buyer shall withhold from the sales proceeds an amount sufficient to comply with the applicable tax law and deliver the same to the IRS. So that is something, if you have a concern about that, because we live in a community with many people from all over the world, and you may not know what their status is. It's important that you have that question answered by the seller's agent or go to the title company. Notices. So after the sale, there may be some residual notices, some things that need to go out. So oftentimes what you put here is how to reach out and get the information to the buyer, but also include, even if you have to add it in the text box, your email, so that you are getting the information as well and know what's going on with the transaction. If it's something that may involve the paperwork that you had done with them, part of the transaction that you need to be aware of.
A second email?
So what I would, oftentimes what they put the buyer's name and their email or their contact information, what the buyer is comfortable sharing. And then you could put the buyer's email here and then yours too, CC and then you just add a text box. So here too is is again your checklist of the paperwork that you need to have that relates to this transaction and what would be in the offer. So of course, if they're financing, it's a third-party financing addendum. If there's seller financing, if that's the case, if it's an HOA, you have to do the HOA form too and have your buyer sign it. If there's a lease back. The other items are rare. I have seen addendum for reservation of oil, gas, and other minerals. And the scope of today's class won't cover this, but if that comes up, you can reach out to your coach or the contract specialist or James Tan for more clarification. It's not a complicated form, but you want to be sure that it's there so that you know, especially in outlying areas where there's oil drilling and so on, that who has the rights to what's underneath. You may be able to live on the property, but you may not have rights to what's underneath. If there's a backup contract, if it's in a coastal area, which wouldn't really apply to us, if you're doing the hydrostatic testing, terminate due to lender's appraisal, that if you think that that house is overpriced, but your buyer really wanted to get into it, but there's question that that house will get appraised, this is something that you should take a look at. Environmental assessment, seller's temporary residential lease back. If it's a short sale, that is something that we may see coming up in the new year because forbearance and you know what COVID has done to some families with their mortgages. Lead-based paint, propane. Again, you put the property address. Here's where you put the option information. You know, it depends on the size of the home or the price point, but what I'm seeing typically is $100 to $150. And for the days of option period, it's really difficult to do anything less than 7 days. I've seen it done, but by, you know, to get an inspector out there, and if there are more things, especially if it's a house that's older and things, there could be more things, you want to put that 7 to 10 days. And also what's wise to do is when you're writing up an offer, call your preferred inspector, you know, talk to your buyer that you need to line up an inspector because we want to get them out there ASAP. And determine with your buyer which inspectors, give them 3, let them pick or prioritize them because some of them may not be available. And then get them in the ready, say, hey, Mr. Inspector, I'm writing up an offer for this house, and seriously, and you know, we're hopeful we're gonna get, they don't have any other offers, so this very well could be executed today or tomorrow. What's your availability in the next day or two to get out to this property to inspect it? When there's an inspection, inspectors prefer that the buyer doesn't come until about the last hour of the inspection. The inspector needs to be there doing their thing. And it's difficult for them to do that especially if you have a first-time home buyer and they may be nervous and following the inspector around. It's best if they come towards the end of the inspection, they can sit down with the inspector, they do their reports very quickly nowadays because so much of it's digital, and then they'll send you the report. But that you have an inspector too that can explain things to the buyer, that they have such a way of explaining it that there's no panic or hysteria, that they're very matter of fact about it and can explain it. I mean, a defect is a light bulb out, and you know, are you going to ruin a deal over a light bulb? No. There may be a number of things that need to be repaired, but typically it's you have to prioritize what you're going to ask for in a repair amendment. A seller may not, they'll just say, no, we're not going to do anything, or we're only going to do 3 things. So you want to go over what you think is reasonable and what's most important to your buyer, and safety wise too. what has to be taken care of. So that's why it's important too, that you're reaching out to our preferred vendor list or people that you have used, know, and trust, and you know how to work with them and have a relationship with them so that when you call, they'll answer, they'll get back to you in a timely fashion so that you feel comfortable. Oh yeah, I can get an inspector out there right away. Oh yeah, I love this title company. I have complete faith in them. They're there for us through the whole timeline of the transaction. And I have had great experience going to a closing, having everything go smoothly. Yes, I love working with this mortgage lender or these mortgage lenders because it's good to know a number of different lenders because everybody's situation is different. Keller Mortgage, I've only heard good things about it, and the money that's saved for the agent is great, but it may not be the right fit for every person. Maybe it's a first-time home buyer that wants to be able to come in and talk to the lender, to kind of have their hand held. Highlands Mortgage is one of the few lenders that will be at the closing table with you. And for a first-time home buyer, that's a big deal. That just soothes out a lot of nerves, knowing that that person's there to explain things, or if something comes up, that it can be taken care of. So take the time to meet your preferred vendors, have kind of in your pocket list of people that your go-to people when you have transactions. But we're very fortunate that our preferred vendor list is very good. Consult an attorney before signing. This isn't anything that you need to fill in necessarily unless attorneys are involved. Here, you would put the execution date. So this would be whoever signs it last would put the execution date in, and you want to verify that that's done. Your buyer would sign it. Make sure in DocuSign that you're putting, when you move over for the signature, that you're also putting date signed. DocuSign doesn't automatically, when they sign it, put the date in. Loop used to do that so that you could it was total obvious when that was signed, what time of day it was signed. And so that's why it's important in DocuSign that you bring over the date signed. You would put the signature box here and the date signed here. That way, if the execution date isn't written in, or if you're on the seller side, that you're putting the date there. And if you see that if you're the buyer and the seller has signed it, but the execution date isn't there, talk with the, and the dates aren't shown here, then you need to have that put in. It's important that that is filled in. So go back to the seller's agent and say, can you please fill in the execution date ASAP so that I can get this over to title and to the lender. Again, property address, broker information. It's important that you who are making up the offer fill everything in, that you don't leave this for the seller agent to fill in. It's a courtesy and it's professional to fill this all in, and all that information will be on the MLS sheet. And then, of course, you're putting your information in. And James Tan is our broker of record, and he's our designated person. So, for example, on the IBS form, primary assumed business name, or the licensed broker is KW Central. The designated broker is James Tan. The licensed supervisor you put down as James Tan too. And then you would have your name here. So it would be KW Central 75, and then our number, which is 567-902. So KW Central 75, and it's 567-902. And then you would have your information, your name, your license, your email and phone. Licensed supervisor, again, would be James Tan, and then you would put his, here you put James Tan's name, our broker, and you would put his license number. The license number you put up at the top over here is for our brokerage, and then here you would put James Tan's license number, and that is 432 986. And it's James L. Tan, T as in Tom, A, N as in Nancy, 432-986. You would put our office address there. And then here is where you put the agreement to the commission. And that should be on the MLS. If you're the buyer writing up the offer, you should see that on the, don't assume it's 3%. Double check on the MLS sheet. And the option fee. Here, as a buyer's agent, it is most professional of you to be the one to help deliver the option fee and the earnest money. Kevin and I have many times seen up at the front that the buyer, who's totally bewildered and overwhelmed by the paperwork, is the one delivering the option check and the earnest money. And that's not good customer service. So it's important that you work with your buyer client to get the option check, or if it's in the form of a money order, that it's made out to the seller, that you bring the contract with you. At the very least, this page, which is page 10 of the contract, to the seller or the seller's agent. In most cases, it would be the seller's agent or at their office that you would bring the option money and have it receipted and make sure that it's signed and that it's filled out properly, that this amount matches what the option fee is, and that it's in the form of a check, cashier's check, money order, and the number, and that the person signing it. And it's important, you have to get the date because you have 3 days. When I sign, if I'm at the front desk, covering the front desk and I'm signing for it, I'll sign my name and the date, and I'll put, especially if they only come in with this page, oftentimes they don't even come in with this page. So we have a page ready available, and I'll put who the, for listing of Jeff Wolf. And again, verify that this amount and the amount on the check matches what's in the option fee in the contract. What you can do if you're when you're filling this out is you could put the amount here. What we have in the option fee section of the contract is $150. Put that there. So it's there. And then same here for earnest money. Put the amount that's on that first page, what the earnest money is, in the form of, typically it's a cashier's check, but then again, too, as you write up the offer, reach out to the title company to see in what forms you can bring the money, or if you can Venmo it or whatever, however they are open to receiving it, what the protocol is. And then you would put in the address. So if it's the title companies in the MLS of who they prefer, fill this information in. And then let the escrow agent sign and put the date on. Once,
Sorry.
yeah,
Where do you take, I don't remember, where do you take the earnest?
earnest money goes to the title company.
Okay, so you're gonna deliver your option to the seller's agent's office?
Typically, it's the seller's agent office unless they advise otherwise.
Okay,
But you want that receipted, and you should make sure you have copies of the checks
okay.
and put it in the file for your client.
And then if the earnest check is always made out to the title company?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the title company will acknowledge receipt of the contract too. So oftentimes, once you have an executed contract, the seller's agent or you send it all to the title company and the lender, and they receipt it, and within a day or two, they'll send back the receipted page. And what I appreciate about Lawyers Title is not only will they send that, but they'll send out a timeline too, just reinforcing what the timeline is based on the executed date of when title commitment is due, financing addendum is due, when the seller's disclosure is due if it wasn't received, when the survey is due if it wasn't received. All of those important dates. And then that you would fill it in, you'd save and close it. You go to your envelope and send it off to your buyer client to review and sign. And then once it comes back to you, you download it, send it as a PDF to the seller, let the seller know it's coming, and ask them to email that they've received it, so you've got it on record that they received it. If you do not hear from them, you call them. And again, be mindful of any deadlines that the seller's agent had to when the offer needs to come in. Be mindful too, and it may be in the special provisions, if you are the seller's agent and you've received an offer, that they haven't put a deadline of when the offer expires. Investors can tend to do that. You know, this offer expires in 2 days if I have not received, a counter offer or execute a contract, then it's terminated. You know, the offer is terminated. So be sure you always, practice this. And that way too, when you are on the side of as a seller's agent and you're looking at key points, that you're able to identify things very quickly. And what's neat about Command, and today, unfortunately, we don't have time to go over that, but what's neat about Command is once you've put everything into compliance, that you have everything in DocuSign, and then you're in your opportunity over on the documents side. On the document side is basically your placeholder where you upload everything that's been signed, executed, so that you can then send it to compliance. So that's what you'll have. Over here. When you go here, you'll go to add a file. And if we've done everything correctly, you would hit DocuSign, because there's a DocuSign room associated with this opportunity. And what it does is, see how it comes up with the 1 to 4, that's the only document I have in there. And it would say signed if it were signed, but verify that, because it could be at the moment just signed by the buyers and not signed by the sellers yet. And then you would upload that, you would assign it, and then it would appear here. And so that one's in the ready for compliance. Okay, what else do I have to do to make sure I've got it for compliance? I need the earnest money receipt from the title company. That would come from title. I have to upload the seller's disclosure that's been signed by everybody. I need to upload the option receipt. Third-party financing, anything that was a part of that offer needs to go here. And then once you see that everything that's required for this transaction is there, and your past option period, and you've reached out to the lender and everything seems to be in good order, then you can submit it to compliance. Once you submit it to compliance, go to the Offers tab and add in the particulars of the offer. It's going to guide you through that. You have to do this Offers tab in order for the commission tab to light up, so you can fill in that most important tab so you get paid at closing. So what happens is you've submitted everything to compliance, ideally 2 weeks or a week before closing. And you've already filled in your offers and then the commission side, so that CDA, the commission disbursement agreement, is here in your folder. You can send it to title, so that title can see that they'll have it in time so that you get paid when it closes in funds, rather than having to wait for a check to come to the office, them to figure out who gets what disbursements, and then you get a check maybe a week or 2 later. Kind of takes away the excitement. It's all still very important. And again, the most important thing is that you're taking care of your client, but this is part of your business. This is what you need to do. So when you go through, and there's like 3 steps to do the offer, and you're basically putting in, and these are good things to remind you about key points, especially when you're talking to, if you're on the seller side, showing what an offer has. So it's the parties involved, it's the particulars of the, when it was executed, when it's going to close, the property address, and then I'll just have to put in here just something so they'll let me go. And then you would put in the seller, you would put in everything, you have to put in everything that has the asterisk. I'll just put agent, and the seller is Sally Seller. And then I go to the terms. So the terms, you're putting in, basically, you're going back to the contract and putting in what the executed contract has. How much cash, what the financing was, what the sales price is, earnest money amount, option fee, days on days of the option fee period. If there was a service agreement, remember the home warranty amount that you put in. If there was a settlement, it was, if like the lender says that we need help with the settlement costs because it's an FHA or it's a VA loan. And then you would go to analysis, because if you're, in this case on the buyer side, it wouldn't matter so much. If it's on the seller side that the analysis, if you're a multiple offer situation, that all of that would come up. And in Command, it'll help you compare multiple offers. That's the beauty of it. One of the important things of putting this in, it may not, to you, it may not be like, oh, this is what's going to happen. I just need to get to the commission tab so that I can fill out get my CDA done. What's neat about this, and why Keller Williams is so forward thinking, is that the more they see information like this, even as a TC, as I'm seeing this information and what's trending right now in offers in a multiple offer situation, at certain price points even, I'm seeing what offers are getting accepted. I'm seeing what's going on, especially if it's in a certain area, subdivision, or a certain area of North Texas. I'm seeing what's trending, what's going on. And this is data that KW is gathering up. It's our data because it's our platform. So there is a reason why you need to be putting this information in. It does matter because you need to get to the commission tab, but because this is data. Try to be as accurate as possible when you put the data in, so that KW has good data that you can refer to, that's in the very soon, that you can refer to, okay, what offers are getting accepted? What are we seeing? What's trending? And you'll see that when you come to sales meetings too, or if you go to ALC meetings and we show trending reports, you may not be a numbers person, but they'll point out the things that this is what's going on. This is what you need to be mindful of as you're writing up offers. This is what you need to have on your radar. This is what's happening, so that you can consult your clients to the best of your ability, and you have, an economic 101 going on in your head or more to see what's ahead and where you should direct your business and your focus. And then say I just put in quickly, oops. And then say earnest money was 1,000. Again, you'll just be going back to your contract to put these numbers in. This is just a test one I've been doing. You can do a test one in Command, Daffy Duck, Sally Seller, whatever you want to name it. And say it was 10 days. We didn't have anything there. We're going to go to agent analysis. This again is really a bigger piece when you're on the listing side and you're looking at a number of offers that you've uploaded and you're comparing offers. And it should be able to, on the seller side, be able to let you download basically like an Excel sheet or a comparison sheet that you can bring to your client. If they're old school and need to see the paper, then it's good practice for you to, if you have to print out these offers, that you're highlighting the key points. What's being financed, what's the cash, what's the offer price, earnest money. Earnest money tells you too, do they have enough skin in the game? Are they serious about this? And, what the option money is, all of those key pieces. If there's a settlement, if they're asking for home warranty, if there are any provisions. And then you would save that and say, I accepted the offer. Once you hit accept, even though I'm on the buyer's side and I know it's been accepted and everything, see how the offers tab lights up? Then you go to the offers tab. And for whatever reason, it's not letting me. Let me refresh it and see. Sometimes in Command, you may need to refresh things to get to. We've been having some trouble with Command. Well, anyway, it worked in rehearsal, but when you could see that it lit up, there's some things it's not allowing me in, and maybe it's because I don't have a valid property address, but you go to the offers tab and it'll walk you through. It's pretty self-explanatory what you need to put in there. And it'll populate all the numbers too that you have. Just verify the numbers. It'll show what comes out for company dollar and royalty. It'll show if you want to take out any money for KW Cares, if you want, an amount that's meaningful to you to give to KW Cares, KW Kids Cares, or KW Central Cares. Keep in mind, KW Central Cares is for our office to help realtors in need. That's our way of fundraising for that, and the Culture Committee fundraises too. And we've helped a lot of agents this year that have had some hardships, and having that money there and giving back is huge. KW Cares is the 501(c)(3). That's through KWRI. Again, another layer of help and support to our agents if a market center has helped to the best of their ability and now the need is greater and they need to go to KW Cares. And so it'll ask you for any deductions. If you elect to do TC work and have Leverage Plus help you, we would help you with the whole timeline. We would help you put things into compliance like I just showed you. We would help you do the offer tab, get you to your commission tab, and make sure that everything's submitted for you. We would fill out that commission tab, make sure that then we get the CDA from the Market Center admin's office and get that CDA off to title for you. And then as a TC, we CC you on all emails that go out as we follow up with title company, as we check in with the lenders, as we make sure that everything's moving along and all paperwork is in. And another set of eyes on paperwork that should be signed. I have, we're human. I've seen things where the lease back dates were wrong. And we had to go back and just correct that. Everybody was in agreement, but the information was wrong. So as a TC, it's my job to review that, not to negotiate for you, but to go through and review all that to be sure that I'm Madam Red Pen, that I'm going through and making sure everything is good to protect you and your client. So again, it's important that you know this process, that you know how to do it, that you know what's involved in it. But if you find that you want to leverage this out, that you want to be out there like Julia so well put yesterday, what your focus is on your 4 things, and that's lead generating, making appointments, going on those listing appointments, and negotiating and working for your client and doing those lead generation tasks. And then let Leverage Plus help you with the other pieces, whether that's TC, whether that's open house flyers, things of that nature that we can be of service to you. So any questions? Anybody on our Zoomy Zoom?
Yes. If you've got if you're a listing agent, you have multiple offers. I know obviously you're looking at the price offer, but should you really be looking at the net, the seller statement?
Yes, if you are representing the seller, it's important that when you sit down and are doing the listing agreement, that you do a net sheet. And so that's an agreement about, they're very clear on if they sell it at this point and they have this much still to pay off on the house, they know what they're going to net, especially with closing costs and commissions. And a helpful thing to that, if you visit Lawyers Title or they're here, they have an app that can help you with that. And it's important too that if you really should do a net sheet with your seller when you get ready to list their house, and document that and put it in the miscellaneous, make a miscellaneous folder in Command on that compliance side and have it there so that, and have them sign off on that net sheet.
So my question is, are listing agents real third? For example, if a house sells for 300,000 and it's a competitive offer and you want to, win it. So one of the things you negotiate, buyer, you can pay for the home warranty. So here's $600. Would it be better to click buyer will pay or raise the price $600 on your offer?
That's a call you'll have to make. For
What is
something
the
like
listing
that, I wouldn't add the 600. I would just say we're not going to ask for home warranty.
Well, my basic question is, do they go down in depth and really look at all the potential?
Where the money is going to go. And
Yes.
Yes, as a good seller agent going over an offer, you should. You should verify all those things and tell the pros and cons to the seller so that they can clearly see then this is what you're going to net. Yes, very good question. That's your fiduciary responsibility. And that you're really seeing, well, yeah, that looks neat that they didn't ask us to pay a home warranty, but they're also offering us, $1,000 less. So this person who's asking for a home warranty of $500 is still offered us $1,000 more. Things like that you're pointing out that the seller may not readily see.
Because it's the buyer, if you're the one that's wanting to buy that person's house, you're the one that's negotiating whether or not you want the seller to pay for this or what have you, right? Like when you write it in your contract?
Yeah, so it's what your buyer is willing to pay for. And, what happens there changes if it's a buyer or a seller's market. If it's a buyer's market, then, you may have more opportunity to ask for a home warranty. If there isn't a survey, more opportunity to have the seller pay for the survey. Things like that, if it's a buyer's market. So any questions from our Zoomies? Well, I appreciate you all being here. I know that contracts aren't like, wow, and exciting, but they are extremely important. And it's important that you understand the contracts, that you really read them. If questions come up, take a breath, go back to the contract because that's where it's all going to be determined, what was agreed upon there. Read it thoroughly. Read it twice, read it 3 times, and then reach out to our contract specialist or James Tan if you have questions so that you can come to them as informed as possible to ask the best questions and to make the best use of everybody's time. And the more you know your contracts, the more confident you're going to be, the easier it's going to write up offers, especially when you're under pressure to get an offer in. And I highly recommend that you look into additional contracts classes. CCR has them, Champions has them, because there are key points that you can look at on how to get out of a contract. And things like that come up. So whether on the seller side or the buyer side, to know those contracts really well and to know where you can get out of a contract if necessary, when you're acting as a fiduciary looking for the best interests of your client. All right. Excited. Contracts. Thank you, everybody. You guys are such a lovely, lovely group, and you Zoomers are a great group too, and I appreciate you all being here and really getting engaged. With all that's going on in the world, we are so fortunate to have so much potential here, especially as a Keller Williams agent, and in the market environment that we are here in North Texas. we're very lucky. And for you to just jump in and take on the training and the coaching and what's available to you, good things are ahead. So, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Is there something else going on? 11, 11:30 today?
No, yesterday was when they did that CMA thing.
Yeah.
Today,
Tomorrow,